Scientists just discovered a 12-mile thick structure hidden underneath the Bermuda Triangle that's unlike anything else on Earth, and nobody can fully explain how it got there. Okay, so this is obviously wild. Researchers were studying seismic waves passing through the Earth whenever they found something beneath Bermuda that shouldn't be there. Okay. They're saying that what they found was a massive rock layer that's 20 kilometers thick, which is over 12 miles, of solid rock just sitting under the island. So, and here's another thing that's crazy, just to add a little bit more to it. They're saying that that's roughly twice as thick as anything scientists have ever seen beneath other volcanic islands. They're saying that this structure is completely unique to anything else on the planet. If you're like me and you're obviously wondering how it got there, they're saying that the leading theory right now is that an ancient volcanic eruption was so massive that it basically injected mantle rock directly into the Earth's crust. So what does that mean? What they're saying that means is that it created a giant raft that's been lifting the ocean floor by over 1,600 feet. I don't know. And before anybody has any conspiracies, they're saying that it does not explain the Bermuda Triangle disappearances, because scientists say that those are mostly just rogue waves and the fact that it's one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. But can we also just all sit back and realize that one of the most mysterious places on the planet also has a completely unexplained geological structure underneath it? Because that's a little bit too perfect.
How can they say definitively that this is not at least in part causing some of these strange mishaps in the Bermuda Triangle? Are scientists not aware that we've discovered certain locations on the planet where there's an increase in magnetism or an increase in the electromagnetic field, where there are these strange anomalies that they try to attribute to the thickness of the Earth's crust? Wouldn't it also be reasonable to assume that if this thing is 12 miles thick, that it could potentially have some sort of magnetized center? You can't say that the simple explanation for all of the mishaps in the Bermuda Triangle are just simply rogue waves and the fact that it's a very busy area. How would rogue waves and a high level of traffic from ships explain all of the downed planes in the area? And how many of those old stories where people wandered into the Bermuda Triangle flying in a plane and almost met their demise? How many of those stories are accompanied with someone saying that all of their instruments and stuff started going crazy and they couldn't get their compasses to work? The only reason I'm pointing any of that out is anytime they make a massive new discovery like this and immediately start telling you, rule this out, rule that out, when they've barely done any investigation into it, my mind immediately jumps to they're trying to cover something up or hide something that they don't want us to be aware of. That's pretty crazy, though, with the way that our ocean floors are mapped out, that we didn't discover this until 2026.
Oh my, this is absolutely hilarious. They're really pulling out the big guns with this one. I guess the other distractions aren't working. Trump has authorized the release of UFO evidence from secret alien bases. President Donald Trump has reportedly approved a request that could open up some of America's most secretive UFO-linked facilities, in a move that will raise hopes among those in search of long sought-after answers to the existence of alien life. Bro, my cheeks hurt. This is so funny. This is so funny. While the Pentagon and U.S. government have consistently denied recovering any physical evidence of extraterrestrial visitors, multiple whistleblowers have told Congress that secret programs have long covered up the truth. Okay, let's go. You know what? Psychics have been saying that disclosure is coming, disclosure is coming, disclosure is coming. I just don't think that they realized that it was going to be tied to the Epstein files. I don't think that they realized it was going to be a disclosure as a result of an attempt to cover up a child trafficking ring. Here we have another example of the darkest, most disturbing, horrifying that has ever happened to us somehow being funny as... Again, so funny, it's putting South Park and The Onion completely out of business. Good luck writing jokes after 2026.
They are really pulling out all the stops to try to divert our attention away from those files, aren't they? Some of the videos I've seen from these recent hearings where they're discussing the release of those files, like especially from Representative Thomas Massey, some of this stuff is absolutely wild. And I'm not saying that I think anyone's actually going to get prosecuted for their part in any of this, but anyone who had their name in those files, they are not going to get off scot-free. At the very least, public opinion of them is going to be so abysmal their entire career is going to be over. I really think when all is said and done, this is going to destroy Hollywood, big swaths of the music industry, and probably a good 75% or more of our politicians are going to all slowly start being tied to this, and their careers are going to be over. And I really don't want to see this entire country collapse, but if watching this country collapse is what it's going to take to destroy this evil, I say bring it on. This is not something you compromise on. And they've been dangling this UFO alien carrot in front of us for decades, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. If they ever actually intended to release anything of any significance, I feel like it would have been released already. And anything that they do release at this point, how in the world are we expected to trust it? We just caught them, almost all of them, in one of the world's biggest, most disgusting lies. They could come out and give us a 2-hour-long interview face-to-face with a captured alien, and I wouldn't believe it at this point. And it's almost insulting that they think this is going to take our attention away from where it belongs.
They shut down the airspace because the Pentagon wanted to put people's lives at risk, and the FAA said no. They shut down the airspace around El Paso and parts of New Mexico because people at the Pentagon, no doubt Pete Hegseth, wanted to put people's lives at risk in order to test a new toy, and the FAA had to step in and say no. At least that's what multiple anonymous whistleblowers are now sharing. In case you missed it, last night, in the middle of the night for most of us, the FAA shut down the airspace around El Paso and parts of New Mexico without warning for 10 days originally, though it was lifted in the morning. They cited security concerns, and there were seemingly zero exceptions to this. And of course, people were confused and concerned, doubly so because a lot of officials, including locals who should have been briefed on what was going on, clearly weren't, including, I'm told, higher ups at the FAA who didn't know what was happening. The Pentagon claimed that this was all in response to cartel drone activity in the area, which immediately people pointed out was suspect, because drone activity in the area isn't rare. But it turns out there might be a kernel of truth to this. Not that the issue was the drone incursion itself, but rather the way that the military and the Pentagon were choosing to handle it, using an untested technology that they had yet to coordinate with the FAA on. See, reportedly, they have a new toy that they've been developing, using lasers that would intercept and take down drones. But it sounds like they haven't actually tested this in any sort of airspace that could put people at risk. And the FAA hasn't been allowed to perform a safety assessment to determine what sorts of risks this technology could pose to other aircraft. We're talking commercial aircraft, passenger planes. In fact, reportedly, military officials rolled out this shiny new toy earlier this week and used the technology to down what they thought was a cartel drone, which turned out to be a birthday balloon. Now imagine they did that in even busier commercial airspace. I know some people are going to say, well, confusing a balloon for a drone is different than confusing a commercial airliner for a drone. Okay, you want to trust the same people that are refusing to work with the FAA on keeping people safe to keep people safe? Those are the detail-oriented individuals at the helm that you feel absolutely certain would never make a decision that would put other people's lives at risk. After all, they did manage to identify and neutralize the extreme threat that was the birthday balloon. Mind you, the risks to other aircraft don't just begin and end at their misidentification. Lasers are dangerous around aircraft. Just ask anyone, including 8-year-olds who are taught not to shine lasers up at aircraft. And all this when they reportedly had a meeting scheduled for later this month with the FAA to discuss some of these safety concerns.
All of this could be true, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but what I am saying is anytime any major mainstream media organization is running an article claiming to be giving you details and all of their resources are anonymous whistleblowers, red flags should be going off. And I'm hearing a lot of reports from different news sources claiming that there was an actual threat from some sort of cartel drone. That apparently these drones are all over the place all the time, but this is the first time that it actually entered this airspace, which was considered restricted airspace. But all of this just sounds like the federal government trying to claim that there was some sort of terroristic threat, and they stopped it. This just sounds like they're trying to make the claim that This was all for national security, and they did it to save lives. If you go back and watch yesterday's video, whenever this was first being reported on, this is what I assumed was going to happen. And again, who knows what the actual truth is, because they're not going to tell us. But they are scrambling right now trying to find some way to get some form of public favor. The entire country is looking at the entirety of the government with disgust, claiming that there was some terroristic threat and they thwarted it would be, in general, a good way to make people think, oh, maybe we do still need the federal government, even though they're all sick, twisted, and evil. But the timing just stinks. Unless they just come out with overwhelming evidence and proved it to us, I'm just going to assume that they were lying and that this whole thing was just a charade to try to make it look like we need them. They've just exposed themselves. I don't see how anyone trusts anything they tell us from this point on.
Guys, yesterday they have just announced a massive archaeological rescue mission to try and find the lost labyrinth of Egypt underneath Hawara Pyramid. To just quickly catch you up to speed on what's happening with this site, this is the Pyramid of Hawara, and historically there has been this massive legend that underneath the pyramid there is a huge labyrinth that apparently Herodotus was quoted as saying that it was more impressive and astonishing and mind-blowing than the pyramids of Giza, that it had 3,000 rooms, that it was massive sub-levels after sub-level after sub-level. And basically in the last sort of 50 years, academia has laughed it off or just written it away as some sort of myth. But there has been multiple independent scans of different companies, different scanning methods, LiDAR, satellite, who have all found evidence that there is in fact a huge complex underneath this site. And the evidence was so convincing that it has now got full permission from the Egyptian authorities to start digging. So you can understand how phenomenally excited I am. This is the Pyramid of Hawara and the canal that runs alongside it. This is a little bit of the insane rat run of level. It's a true labyrinth. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. It goes down to potentially minus 100 meters. There are chambers in here that are huge, at 40 meters, 50 meters, 80 meters. Roklaar University, the Matahar expedition in 2008-2009, which was massively silenced by the Egyptian authorities at the time when they came out with this data. We've got Merlin Burrows did satellite scans. They are a legit British satellite scanning company that are affiliated with the army, the British Army. They use the same satellites as the British Army. There we go. And then we've got Geoscan. All of these guys have correlating data showing the same thing. What is the use of having all this scans and data if we can't actually get on the ground, digging stuff up and seeing with our own eyes? Well, that's about to happen. They have announced a preservation plan and a rescue mission to start digging down in this site, literally as of now. They could start digging next month, and it's proper, it's all official. It has a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a long-term plan for the site and for the area, for long-term preservation, getting local people employed in the site, boosting tourism. It's all in the preservation plan that you can download yourself. Go to archaeologicalrescue.org/Hawara/#plan. You can download the plan, the proposal, and just if anyone's skeptical about what's going on, it has been signed off by the Egyptian authorities. All activities at Hawara will be under the authority of the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities and the Supreme Council of Antiquities, which is the highest that you can go in Egyptian old stuff. They are also co-partnering with GEM, the museum, with Cairo University, with two British universities, Leeds University and Nottingham. There are some major players and major funders who are going to start the excavation process and the rescue process. So this is not a drill. Potentially this year we could start finding parts of this lost labyrinth. Do want to shout out that it is the man Louis de Cordier, who is the original guy who did the Matterhorn expedition in 2008. He is the one that has been bringing this project all together, finding the fundings, making the contacts. He is the reason why the labyrinth is going to be found, and I couldn't think of anyone more justified to take that title, because he has been fighting to tell the world about this for years and years. So let's help him spread the message. Please go and look at archaeologicalrescue.org/Hawara and keep an eye on this, because
I want to make sure that no one suspects that I'm not excited about this, because this sounds absolutely amazing. But is it just me, or does anyone else also feel like they've likely known about this for probably a couple of decades, knew that it was down there, because some of those scans are going back to the early 2000s. And like Egypt always does, they're dragging their feet on excavation because they don't want the general public to know anything. But it feels like the only reason they're even exploring the idea of the possibility of digging this out is to take attention away from what's under those other pyramids. The big spiral staircases that go down miles underneath the ground into these huge caverns in the bedrock. Is everyone just gonna forget about that? Again, this is really exciting and all. I hope that they find something really cool down there. But we're talking about the people who control the flow of information out into the general public. The people who have access to all the best documentation of history. The people who, at the very least, likely know what's under those other pyramids and showing up on those original scans. Just the simple fact that everyone seems so on board with digging this up makes me feel like we need to be more focused on the part they're trying to distract us from. But again, this is really exciting. I am anxious to see what's down there. I would say just as anxious to see what's down there as the next guy. But also, isn't it kind of interesting that right as we're finding out about all of these sick things that the elites are doing, they start giving us things we've been asking for decades? This is really starting to feel like appeasement to me.
I don't know how I didn't see this coming, because for years now we've heard we're going to own nothing and be happy, right? But I thought the future plan to be able to access the internet is that you need digital ID, right? Like you can't log in and use the internet without it being linked to who exactly you are. Well, that would be in addition to you renting computers. Jeff Bezos is saying it's inefficient to have your own computer. You know how we don't really own games anymore or TV shows, like it's all subscription based? Well, that's planned for computers as well, and not just gaming computers. So now you can subscribe to a laptop from HP that you do not own. Don't worry though, customer service will always be standing by. It's AI powered, woo! But you will never own it. And this also reminds me about how, BMW offered a subscription. You buy the car, but they offer you a subscription to be able to use its full horsepower and like heated seats. Do you guys remember that? So look, HP is offering a laptop subscription, $129.99 a month with a big RTX 5080 in there, but you don't own it. And you know, this actually all started when we all of a sudden, we weren't supposed to jailbreak our phones. We weren't supposed to modify the PlayStation or any video game console. You're not supposed to modify it. And it's not just about warranty, like how there's a little tab in it. Once you take it apart, they know you've opened the thing and the warranty is void. It's they don't want you being able to do things with it. This is why it's good to have a library. This is why it's good to have physical things in your hands that you own, because it seems that there's an agenda to make sure that you own nothing. But don't worry, you'll be happy about it. Jeff Bezos famously likened owning high-end PCs to the era when factories had to run their own private power generators. Once centralized power grids arrived, that model became obsolete. He argues personal computing is heading the same way. Now, this person who's conspiring a little bit says that this is not about better technology, it's about control. If access can be revoked at any moment, can you really say you own anything anymore? But the crazy part is they're pretty much already making it impossible to have your own computer for the average person because the components are expensive. So they're already pushing it in that direction, but they're making it seem like this will be a solution. You can't afford a computer? Don't worry, you can rent one. Absolutely wild, totally part of an agenda. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more.
Think about all that news that came out recently about what Microsoft does with uploading all of your stuff to, I think it was OneDrive, and they basically keep a copy or a duplicate of everything on your personal hard drive in the cloud. And if you get in and try to delete it out of their cloud, it also deletes your personal hard drive and you lose all of your own personal copies of everything. So they're under fire for that right now. Now imagine that they own not just the operating system, but the computer hardware itself. At any point, and you know this will be hidden deep down in the fine print whenever you rent one of these computers instead of buying one, there's going to be some new law that allows them at any point to wipe your entire hard drive, and you won't be able to do anything about it because it's their hardware. And if it's their hardware, then they have the ultimate say on what can and can't be stored on there. But is anyone surprised at all about this? And it's going to reach the point that we're all forced to go this route. Just look at the laws that they're passing in the UK in regards to their digital currency. They intend to make it a law that you can only have so much money in your checking account. Well, then at that point, the only option you've really got is to rent something, because you can't save up the money to buy something outright, even if they did offer it. So the option will still exist to buy things outright that are really expensive, but you're not going to be legally allowed to have enough money to go purchase something like this. When you really step back and look at it, you can see all the pieces falling into place. They are going to get control over everything. But I wanted to give everybody a heads up. I know it's not easy to just run out and drop a couple $1,000s getting a new personal computer, but if you've got the ability, better go get one while you still have the chance.
Okay, so this is something literally insane that I just learned today. Did you know that your smart TV is taking a screenshot of whatever's on your screen every half second and sending it back to the company? And now there is a massive lawsuit behind the entire thing. This is literally insane, and most people, including me, didn't even know that this was happening. A lawsuit just revealed that major TV manufacturers have been using something called automated content recognition, or they're calling it ACR for short, but it spies on everything that you watch, and I mean everything. They're saying that this is how it works. Your software takes a screenshot of your TV every 500 milliseconds, which is twice per second, obviously, and it sends it back to the company. They're saying that of course it doesn't track just what streaming apps you're on, it captures everything on your screen. This means that if you connect a doorbell camera or a security system to your TV, they see it. If you cast photos from your phone, they see it. If you plug in a gaming console or a laptop with HDMI, they see that too. The companies that are under this lawsuit right now include Samsung, Sony, LG, and 2 different Chinese manufacturers, Hisense and TCL. Obviously the TVs that literally everybody has, but a court just granted an emergency order to stop Samsung from collecting this data while the case continues. The potential penalty for this entire thing is up to $250,000 per consumer for collecting illegal data. This entire thing is ongoing right now.
I'm literally sitting here using an LG 55-inch OLED TV as my computer monitor. I've got my MacBook Pro hooked up to it. That's actually what's lighting my face right now. This is absolutely infuriating. What right do they have to see whatever I'm looking at just because a device that I purchased is plugged into my computer? And I didn't sign anything to give them rights to my private personal information whenever I purchased this television at Best Buy. So every time I log into my bank account now, LG has a copy of all of my information. Every website that I go to, LG has a copy of it. And this simply can't just be these individual manufacturers coming up with this idea on their own. There has to be a greater conspiracy here. Just the fact that there are 5 very well-known television manufacturers that are all doing this simultaneously. There has to be some bigger scheme behind it. I want to know what they're doing with that information. And think if you're someone that takes boudoir photos of clients or something and you edit using your computer, using a television as a monitor. Now, LG and whatever employees have access to this data, have access to see the inappropriate photos of every one of your clients. How is it not already extremely against the law for any company to secretly steal inappropriate photos of people in the public and to not even notify them that they're doing it? There's no telling what kind of personal information they have on people. Basically, stealing a photograph every half second the entire time you're using their device. And I'm going to have to look into this and see exactly what method they're using to do this, because my television personally is not even connected to the internet. It's a smart TV, but it's not connected to Wi-Fi. I don't use any of the smart app functionality on it. I just have it hooked up to my computer. It's literally just used as a monitor, and occasionally I'll watch a movie on it, but I don't use the apps on the TV itself. So fingers crossed, I'm not somebody that's being affected by this. I'm not going to just assume, but I would imagine that you probably would have to connect the television to Wi-Fi. But aside from all that, if you do have to connect it to Wi-Fi, because it's got to be sending these photos up to the cloud somehow, how much of people's data are they secretly using? A lot of people have a data cap on their internet. And since the people who own the TVs themselves are the ones who actually pay for that internet, wouldn't this also fall in line with the idea of theft of services? If they're using up a bunch of your data without telling you about it, also they can steal your private information? The more you sit and think about this, the bigger deal it becomes. What in the world is wrong with all of these companies just making the assumption that they have a right to all of our personal information?
This might just mean I'm sick in the head, but I'm genuinely excited. Congress spent 2 hours looking at the unredacted files yesterday, and I don't know, but it feels like heads are starting to roll. This is a statement from Rep. Thomas Massey, who him and Ro Khanna honestly deserve a standing ovation, because frankly, none of this would be happening without the very good work they did. So literally, cheers to them. He says, last night I received a flash drive containing the complete list of files belonging to Epstein. Everything is there. Every billionaire, every campaign donor, every single person. Now, let me explain why you haven't heard anything about this in the media, because they're all in there. They will do everything to prevent these documents from being made public. Epstein was far more than just he was an intelligence asset. He was part of a blackmail operation used to control billionaires, politicians, and world leaders. If this list ever sees the light of day, the system as we know it will collapse. The public has the right to know the truth, and I'm not afraid to share. This is the mood I am in, and I'm very excited. I literally, I have chills. I'm excited. Feels like, things are starting to move in the right direction. In all seriousness, I do believe that nothing is ever going to be the same, and that this is going to take down a lot of powerful people.
Let's bring it on. I cannot wait to watch this system collapse if this is the way that our system is put together. It's getting easier and easier to understand why it took them a decade to release any information about this. And if it weren't for people like Thomas Massey, we still wouldn't have this. They would still be telling us this is nothing but a Democrat hoax. Kash Patel would still be sitting there telling us there's no evidence of wrongdoing. There's no evidence that other people were involved. And that's the reason that what happened supposedly to Epstein happened to Epstein. These people just incorrectly assumed that if something happened to him and he was no longer around to be able to face any consequences, everyone would just eventually forget about it. That they could just sweep the whole thing under the rug. But that's because these people don't see anything wrong with what they're doing. So they severely underestimated how disgusted the general public was going to be with the revelation of all of this information. This is not something that people are just going to forget about. This is not something that we're going to allow to just get replaced in next week's news cycle with the revelation of some alien information. People are furious. The masks have come off and we finally see who these elites truly are. That's not something that you just forget about with time. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. God willing, I'll be back tomorrow with another one. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to drop your theories and your comments in the comments section down below. But guys and gals, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all tomorrow.